remember how we were all discussing the Quad meeting as it is supposed to take place in Melbourne in a few hours from now. The shots that you're seeing right now are the first shots we see. You remember that the foreign ministers from the 4 countries are assembling in Melbourne to have that meeting. This is the first in-person meeting in a while now. The US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, the Australian Foreign Minister Marise Payne and Yoshimasa Hayashi are all going to be in attendance, apart of course from our External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. That's the footage that you can see right now on your screens. The Quad meet, you remember, is important as tensions are rising between the US and its allies and Russia because of the Ukraine issue, China as it's expanding its web in the South China Sea, and of course the efforts to combat the pandemic. There were coordinated efforts we were seeing between the 4 countries. Again, a reminder, the 4 countries in concern here are America, Australia, Japan, and of course India. Now what you're seeing in front of you are the foreign ministers from the 4 states meeting. That's the footage you're actually able to see in front of you live.
Partners that we see gathered together in this Quad, I always find so incredibly reassuring. I'm reassured by our perspective. I'm reassured by the understanding that is shared between each of us. I'm reassured by the incredible strong support that Australia has received by our Quad partners. And I just don't mean in a security context. I mean that in terms of our economic partnership and cooperation. I mean that in our humanitarian partnership. I mean that in terms of how each of us stands for a world order that favours freedom, and particularly here in a free and open Indo-Pacific. And I want to thank you for all of that. And so while we share this perspective, we look through a lens that very much has our ASEAN partners at the centre of our understanding of the Indo-Pacific vision. Australia is the first comprehensive strategic partner of ASEAN, but we all share a deep passion for ASEAN. And our partnership with them, each of us, is helping us achieve the many things that we're working on through the Quad. We sit here in these chairs today, but it was a great thrill to be in the White House with Secretary Blinken and with President Biden, of course, and at that point, the former Prime Minister from Japan, my good friend Jaishankar, and now through Fomio, and of course Prime Minister Modi. And here we're gathered again here in person. I think that's tremendous. And the things we discussed today are principally how we will continue to always stand up for our values, which is what unites us most. Secondly, I think in doing so, we stand up to those who would seek to coerce us. And as I understand from our Quad partners, none of you understand better than we do. And that is a great comfort to us, that the coercion and the pressure that Australia has been placed under, we greatly appreciate your support. But we also share a vision for a strong economy, not just regional stability and security, and our engagement in this region, of which we're so passionate about. Because that gives all nations in the region options and choices and opportunities, and enables their sovereignty to be strengthened and respected. And we are working together on so many shared projects, which is what the Quad is all about. Not only, of course, the traditional regional security issues that has bound us together, but our shared partnerships on everything from critical minerals, from new technologies, to expanding our markets together and opening up markets, but also on global challenges, whether they be on climate or on humanitarian issues, or of course the great challenge of COVID of our age. And that has led so much of the work that has been important to
All right, my colleague Maha
Quad
Siddiqui
partnership.
is with us right now to bring us a little bit more context. Maha, for our audiences, we just played out the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison. I just want to understand from you, because it is a little unclear, is Scott Morrison also meeting with the foreign ministers from each of the countries?
Yes, that's right, Soya. Because all these foreign ministers are visiting the country, it is as per norm that the foreign ministers go and call on the Prime Minister. Or, usually that is the norm, or the President, whoever is the head. Now, in this case, they are meeting Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister, and this meeting will last for a bit because it's more like a call-on, but of course Scott Morrison is speaking on the importance of the Quad, why it is necessary, why the security mechanism needs to be such that, specifically in the Indo-Pacific, that it is free, open and inclusive. All those aspects will first be, just touched upon by the Prime Minister with the three foreign ministers of the other countries, India, Japan and United States, after which in a short while from now, in about 20 minutes, is when we will see External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar holding a bilateral meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. So it's in about 20 minutes from now. It's a packed schedule. After which, around 10:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time, we will see the Quad meeting start between the foreign ministers, and then there will be a press briefing at around 1 p.m. Indian Standard Time. All these events are taking place in Melbourne, and all eyes will also be on the meeting between Secretary Blinken and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. This will be really the first meeting ever since the Ukraine crisis has started. And Wendy Sherman, who is in the State Department in the U.S. and who's pretty much hands-on and handling the Ukraine crisis, did make a call to Harshvardhan Shringla, who's the Foreign Secretary of India, sometime about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. But today, when S. Jaishankar meets Secretary Blinken, we'll have to wait to see whether the U.S. communicates any message with regards to Ukraine. Also, very importantly, Toya, for India, we were expecting that there could be some announcement on the issue of CAPSA, which are sanctions if any country deals with Russian defense. All right, S. Jaishankar is speaking. Let's listen into what.
September, Prime Minister, you, our Prime Minister, President Biden, Prime Minister Japan, you collectively gave us guidance, laid out a vision for the Quad to go forward. I do want to assure you that we've all been at work very hard since then. I think today the meeting gives us an opportunity to review how much we have progressed on that vision that you have set out. I'm very confident that the pace, the progress that Quad has demonstrated in the last few years would only be accelerated in the time to come. Since I'm also here for a bilateral, I do want to recognize how much progress we have made in our ties in Australia.
Very true.
We have your trade minister today in India. I think my understanding is the discussions there have also been very positive. And part of the reason why I think Quad has worked so well as a force in my Prime Minister's word of global good in the Indo-Pacific, is because our bilateral relations have been very strong, and surely I expect the progress in our bilateral relations to continue as well. Once again, such a pleasure.
Thank you.
今日は表敬の機会をいただき本当に感謝を申し上げます。この後ペイン外相の主催のもとでですね、日米豪印外相会合が開催されます。大変タイムリーに実況を得たもので、この
All right, my colleague Maha Siddiqui remains with us right now. Maha, we did see S. Jaishankar speak. I'm not entirely sure how clear the audio was for you over there. Can you convey to us the key points of what he just said?
Largely on the issue of Quad and its importance, clearly, Toya. He was also pointing out the conversations that have happened in the past between Prime Minister Scott Morrison and Prime Minister Modi.
I see.
And then again laying out the significance of the Quad in the Indo-Pacific. Now, the Quad is not a military alliance, and that is very clear now. The formation of AUKUS, which is an alliance between Australia, US and UK, that pressure also to militarize Quad has, in some sense dissipated. Now, for India, it is important that there is a counter to China, and Quad plays a significant role in that. The new role really that Quad has assumed and what Quad is pressing on since the formation of AUKUS, is that this is a positive coming together of the four countries for the betterment of the Indo-Pacific. They look at many other aspects which are non-military in nature. They look at cooperation in the technology sector, in climate change, in, as of now, vaccine diplomacy. So those are the aspects that these countries are really focusing on. And that too is in the context of China